Hello. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday at a new time for us. I actually enjoyed the extra hour to get ready. It was great. I hope everyone had a nice week off of some sorts, hopefully, a break. Silence my Okay. We were just all saying that we're just getting back into the groove of the week after a nice break. So I really do hope that everyone was able to take a little time to themselves, and with their family and their homes. It was obviously an interesting week for Thanksgiving, but we're all getting back in that mode, at least for the next few weeks as we head into the holiday season. All right, so I'm going to get going. I'm Stacy Delo. I'm the CEO of Apres. I'm also the co-author of Your Turn: Careers, Kids, and Comebacks, A Working Mother's Guide. And of course, this is our Tuesday webinar series where today we are talking about the elevator pitch. And we often talk about the elevator pitch heading into the new year. So as the year winds down and heading into the new year, because there are so many events that we typically go to. And so we thought about not doing it this year, but the elevator pitch, and we'll get into this in a second, can be so critical when it comes to your job search. And it really is the framing piece that can set the tone and the trajectory for the search that you are on. And so we wanted to go ahead and give you the tools and the resources to put together an effective elevator pitch that you can use really across a lot of channels, and then get prepared for next year with. And we have a special guest from Dell who I'm going to introduce to you in a minute. Laura Carver, also here in our little video boxes with us today. She's going to give us a great overview of kind of what hiring managers are looking for right now and what role the elevator pitch plays in that. So I want to walk through a few things before we get to the bulk of what we're going to talk about today. So today, honing your elevator pitch with Dell, yay! Next week, we're going to have a great conversation with actually my co-author, Jennifer Gefsky. She's going to come on and talk to us about strategies for returning to work. She'll give us her personal story, which is a great one. She took a 7-year break, and what she did in that time and how she pivoted to what she's doing today, which I'll let her kind of expound on. She's a really dynamic speaker, and so I hope that you all can join us for that. It's great tips. Even if you're not returning to work, she's so inspiring. So if you just need a little inspirational lift, come join us with Jen next week. And then on the 15th, we are talking about our favorite job search tips of the year. So we're going to be pulling together what we've learned from the year out of all of the webinars that we did starting when the pandemic began, and kind of crystallize all of those sort of best takeaways. And then we're going to be doing some giveaways with that. So that'll be a really fun one to join us for. If you haven't taken advantage of the free trial that Noom is offering through us, please follow the links that you'll find in the chat. And then I want to draw your eye to our jobs board. We have a healthy amount of jobs in there from big companies and smaller companies. Actually, Hey There Social Media, who was on, that's a more like a fellowship that you can do, and they're starting a new cohort, I think, in January, so you might want to check that out. But VMware, United Health Group, Bain and Company. We have a great product company in LA, Youth to the People right now. It's a skincare product line, and they've got several jobs on the site, so please check that out. The Natural Resources Defense Council is a nonprofit that has some jobs available as well right now. And this is a slew of other kind of individual companies from across the country that are looking for specific hires. So take a look at the job board, see what you find, and let us know if you apply, and let us know if we can be helpful in answering any questions or getting you to apply. Remember that these companies want our membership to apply. That's why they post their jobs with us. And they are also very open to career gaps. So please, if you see something that may not be right for you, but might be right for somebody that you know, please share. Okay, so here's the part where we're going to get to work on the elevator pitch. We're going to start with this amazing Q&A with Laura Carver from Dell, a senior advisor on the diversity, talent, and acquisition team at Dell. She's coming to us today from Mississippi, and we're so excited to have you, Laura. So why don't you, can you unmute so that you can say hello? And
Yeah, hi. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited.
yeah, Laura and I had a chance to do a little bit of a pre-talk yesterday, and I learned so much just in those few minutes of speaking with her, so I know that you will too. Laura, I thought it might be really helpful just to kick things off by having you explain your role at Dell. What do you do for Dell?
Sure. So, like you mentioned, Stacey, I'm a senior advisor for diversity talent acquisition, but my real focus is actually to lead our gender diversity recruiting efforts for North America. What that means is that I am like a strategic advisor when it comes to identifying ways to bring more women into the workforce and build a more gender diverse talent pool. As an advisor in diversity TA, we're a little bit different than recruiters. So I have a recruiting background, but now I'm really more in a strategic programs type role where I'm coming up with ways to identify untapped talent pools or build programs or initiatives that will support driving more candidates to apply to our open positions.
Okay, I love that you have the gender diversity focus. It's such an important
Yes.
role at companies, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
So
our team is really
one of the things.
interesting too because we work. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, please.
Oh, that's okay. I think there might be a delay. I think our team is kind of interesting because of the way it's structured, and Dell has some really impressive and lofty goals in terms of diversity hiring, and you see one of them here in my bio is that we have what we call our progress made real goals. And one of those is to have 50% of our global workforce and 40% of our people leaders be female by 2030. And that's a big goal for us, especially being a tech company where women are vastly underrepresented in technology and STEM roles. So I have a lot of work ahead of me, but it's a really exciting place to be, and there's a lot of good stuff to be done in that space.
Yeah, Dell has really been at the forefront of that, a leader in this space, and it's really encouraging to hear that you're continuing with the effort even against the challenging year that we've had.
Yes.
And it will be a particularly important role going into next year, I think, given the number of women that we've seen leave the workforce during this
Yes.
time. So when we spoke, I learned that you studied biology and chemistry and then went into working for a nonprofit, and now you lead a recruiting effort at a major technology company. So that is just those are stories and journeys that we just love to spotlight at a Prey, and I would just love to hear how you about a little bit more about you and your personal journey and how you made those shifts to get to where you are today.
Yeah, I told you when we talked, I don't know that anybody that's in recruiting kind of goes out on their career path and thinks, okay, I'm going to be a recruiter. It just sort of happens to people sometimes, and you get into this field and it just works. So I did. I got my undergrad in biology and chemistry. And then after I graduated, I went to work for Walt Disney Company. I moved to Orlando and I worked at Animal Kingdom and I did conservation biology there, where I basically talked to kids and parents throughout the parks about conservation biology issues, things that they could do to help, protect the planet, and spent a year there, and it was fantastic. And then my internship was over, and it was time to get a real job, according to my parents at the time. And so I came home, and I had an opportunity to work for a nonprofit healthcare system in an entry level HR recruiting assistant role. I had no idea what I was getting into. I had never considered a career in HR. I thought I was going to be in a lab somewhere. And after working at Disney, I realized that I didn't want to be in a box and not talking to people and we're running tests all day. I really wanted to be interacting. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll try this out. And ended up spending almost 8 years working in nonprofit healthcare recruiting, promoted to a senior recruiter role, and I had a family at the time. I still have a family, but that my kids were really small, and I really wanted an opportunity to work from home because I wanted to be able to spend more time with them. I was working long days, 10-hour days, and it was really tough. I had a 2-year-old and a 5-year-old, and that was challenging. So I decided to look at other opportunities, and I was able to start working in a diversity recruiting role with Oracle, and working from home, which was new for me. So that was really exciting, and I had a lot more flexibility, a lot more latitude. Things were great, and then I went through a divorce, which was really challenging, being a single parent with 2 small kids. And then I also decided at the same time, I think I told you, like, I'm going to go back and get my master's degree. And
Right.
so I don't know why I felt like that was a good time to do that.
I love
But I did. Yeah. So I think for me at the time, realizing that I had made recruiting in HR a career, instead of just a job out of college, I felt like I needed to go back and get some other education underneath my belt, that really gave me a broader idea of what was out there in the HR world. So I got my master's in HR development from Villanova, and I did it all online, which was great, especially working from home and being single mom. It worked for my schedule, so that was perfect. I would do night classes one night a week. I did one class at a time until I finished my degree, and just kind of slow and steady, and finished in about just under 2 years. So that was good. Um, and worked for Oracle, building their diversity and veteran recruiting programs. And then I built and managed their internal recruiting program, which was a global program. So I was managing teams all over the world. We had teams in Romania, I had teams in Singapore, Latin America, and then here in North America too. And then about a year ago, I had an opportunity to come and work for Dell. People ask me, like, why are you leaving? Like, this job at Oracle is great. It's a great job. You love what you do. And that was true. And so I was in a position where I didn't have to make a change. But when I started looking at some of the things that Dell was doing, um, it kind of blew me away. One of those being our Career Restart program, which is actually a program that I lead now for Dell. It's our reentry program that supports people coming back into the workforce after taking a break. Um, Other companies aren't doing that. Some of them are now, and you're seeing more and more, but Oracle wasn't doing it. Other big companies weren't doing it. We also have an autism hiring program that supports hiring candidates who are on the autism spectrum. And that was another thing that I'm like, man, like, I got to get in on this. Like, this is just amazing. And there's a lot of other things that Dell is doing that to me just makes it stand out as an organization that is supporting diversity. It supports flexibility for working parents. And I've seen that, firsthand, especially during a pandemic. Having my kids running in and out, behind me while they're trying to do homeschool, and I'm on a meeting with, VPs and people, and it's not a big deal. And so I think that working for a company like that and seeing the initiative that they're taking was that deciding factor in coming into the role that I'm in now.
Yeah.
And now I get to
And
lead gender recruiting.
yeah, and I think what a really important clarification on the reentry program at Dell is that um, so often returnships are these packaged experiences that have a specific area that the company is potentially hiring into, and they're fantastic. But I love what Dell does because it's actually an ongoing program that doesn't have a specific start. It's not an internship. Essentially, they want to hire you into roles from the get-go, and
Hmm.
uh, also we'll work with you. And you can probably explain this a little bit better, but we'll work with you if you need some reentry experience.
Yeah. So yeah, our program is a little different. And we're not a returnship program. We are a full-time direct hire program, meaning that people that come into our positions come in and they're full-time benefited positions from day one. Our goal is it's not a reskilling program either. Our goal is to hire someone into the same type of role and level that you were in when you left. And so if you were a senior software engineer, we're going to be looking at senior software engineers for you. There may be some ramp up time, there may be some additional training and things like that that need to happen. And we work with our hiring managers and our recruiters to make sure that they can support that and sustain that. We are also on a continuous hiring model, so meaning that we don't hire just twice a year for a cohort. We sort of have an ongoing, rolling numbers of opportunities that people can apply to. Any position at Dell is open for a restarter to apply to. We will work with certain teams that are doing like big ramps if we know that, for example, I'm about to be working on a huge hiring push for digital designers. So we're going to be looking for people that have that experience, and I'm hoping that I can get some of our reentry talent into that. But it's not that we're going to be hiring them all at the same time in a cohort. We're going to be able to kind of work with our teams and hire ongoing as the business dictates the need.
I said to you yesterday, more of this, please. And I'm saying it again,
Yeah.
more of this, please. It means a lot to have big companies thinking about that and providing a model for others. So
Yeah.
please keep talking about your program. That's fantastic. So we've established that you have a lot of experience in recruiting, and the people that join us on these webinars are largely in job search mode. And we talk a lot in our webinars about ways to be noticed by recruiters, particularly if you have a career gap. And so I'd love to get your thoughts on, you know, maybe let's start with LinkedIn. I mean, how do you use LinkedIn, and what are you wanting to see from prospective candidates when you get to LinkedIn?
Yeah, and from a recruiter standpoint, LinkedIn is a great tool for sourcing and for identifying talent. People use it and they're searching by schools, they're searching by certifications, keywords, things like that. Anything that may pop up someone in their search. And one thing that people, especially people who have maybe taken a career break, are challenged with is that a lot of times people think that a break in a career can be a big red flag, and they get overlooked because of that. But what we're trying to do with our recruiters is, first of all, educate them to know that they can understand that even though someone may have taken some time away from work, that's not a bad thing. There are a lot of things that maybe they developed during that time away that could apply to positions today. I think for LinkedIn, it's really important to be clear and concise about your skills, to make sure that if you're looking at job descriptions, incorporate some of those keywords that you're seeing in those job descriptions in your LinkedIn profile so that you are popping up in their searches. And I think that it's okay to highlight a break, to have like a transferable, skill on there. Let's say that maybe you are, president of a PTO organization or coordinated a fundraiser. That transferable skill could be organization and project management. It's okay to put something like that on your LinkedIn profile. If you started an online Etsy store or a business, that's financial planning and entrepreneurship. These are all things that maybe you don't see as a corporate job and you wouldn't necessarily think to put on there, but you absolutely should. Because I think that recruiters are, especially in the situation that we're in right now, with so many people leaving the workforce because of COVID and the pandemic that we're in. I think that you're going to see more and more people having breaks like that. So anything that can kind of help you stand out in terms of those transferable skills is going to be critical to getting noticed.
Definitely. And what other sources are you using, especially in this time when we aren't able to attend an actual career fair, or you're not pushing out essentially into the community. Where else do you turn right now? What are some
Yeah.
good resources?
Yeah, working in a pandemic in recruiting, it's been a whole different ballgame for us. We've had to really completely rethink how we attract talent and how we retain talent. Um, and I'm sure that if you've seen any of the conferences or anything that's been happening in the last 8-10 months, everything's virtual now. All of the big Texas Conference for Women, Simmons Conference, Grace Hopper, all of these conferences are online, which is good and bad. I think it
Mhm.
takes away some of that being able to go in and actually like meet someone face to face and talk to someone, in terms of like what you would do in a regular career fair. But in a virtual environment, you have a lot more doors that are open to you. You have a lot more opportunities to kind of broaden your reach a little bit. Think outside of maybe your local area. Think bigger, think broader, because so many more companies are open to remote work right now. So if there are opportunities for attending free career fairs, online conferences, webinars, Power to Fly had a diversity conference this summer that was free for attendees.
Yeah.
Go see what happens, build your network, check in with people, and that's really something that I would recommend. I think there's a lot to be said for just connecting with people, letting people
Mhm.
know that you're looking for opportunities, friends, family, teachers, anybody, former coworkers, anybody that's in your network, let them know that you're out there and you're looking, because you never know where that might lead you, or where, you might get that tap on the shoulder that says, hey, I heard about this opportunity. I know you're looking. You just never
Yeah.
know.
You never know. That's absolutely right. And nobody will know if you keep it to yourself.
Right.
um, so let's talk a bit about just today's job market and what you can speak specifically to Dell, or you can speak more broadly about what skills you're finding attractive. Like, what skills are you specifically looking for? I know you mentioned you've got a push right now for digital designers, but outside of that, can you talk about what you'd like to see from a skill perspective, or what's trendy or hot right now?
Yeah, I mean, so I work for a tech company, so obviously we're looking for a lot of technical roles, engineering, design. People forget though, we're a sales organization too. We have all these products, and a huge portion of our sales force, or our employee base, are salespeople. And there's vastly underrepresented in terms of female talent in the sales world. So that's a great opportunity to get into an organization and apply some of those transferable skills. And it's a group that's kind of always hiring too. But you don't really think about that when you're looking at Dell as a tech company. You're thinking, oh, I'm not an engineer. I can't work there. That's not true. Um, I was having a conversation the other day with our inside sales team, and we were asking about, what are you looking for in candidates? Their biggest thing right now is just an enthusiasm and an interest and an aptitude to learn something new. They can teach you the technology. I can teach you how to sell a product. We can teach you the ins and outs of a product, no matter whether you have a technical background or not. But if you don't have that interest or that desire to learn it, there's nothing we can do with that. So I think just having a drive and ambition and aptitude for trying something new and kind of stepping outside of that comfort zone. That's what a lot of leaders are looking for right now. They're opening up and they're expanding their skill sets and kind of their preferences, because the job market is tight. And so we have to think about alternative pools and alternative ways to bring in really strong talent. And that may mean training our own people on certain skill sets, but there are those kind of core soft skills that you have to be successful in some of those roles. And that I think is really important to remember. And I think looking at job descriptions
100%. And
too.
I wish,
Oh, well, I was just going to say, when you're looking at a job description, um, and women are bad about this. Like, if we don't match 100% of what's on that job description, we're not going to apply for the job. That's not right. Like, you put the application in, because a lot of times if you can meet 4 or 5 out of 10, the manager is going to give you a chance, or at least give you a second look and say, hey, can I work with this person, or do these other skills that they have outweigh what I'm going to have to train. And a lot of times, yeah, that's the case. They're willing to do that. So just another thought.
yeah. And I just wanted to note on the sales, I feel like I'm an evangelist for sales. There's so much opportunity for women in sales. And I just wish that we could sort of crack that nut to figure out how to get more women to apply to these sales roles, because they're out there and they're always out there,
Yep,
and they can be very lucrative too.
correct.
Um, so we're hearing a lot about transferable skills right now, and I think for somebody with a career break, we actually had a whole session on this last week. It's a great opportunity to look back at what you've done and thinking about what's next, pull out what those transferable skills are. And then we're hearing a lot about soft skills being important right now. And so one of the things I think the questions that we get is how do we help people make those pop in a resume format or a LinkedIn, kind of an otherwise flat format, because you can talk about soft skills and transferable skills when you have somebody on the phone or on Zoom, but it's really hard sometimes for people to make that leap, how to make those stand out in a resume or LinkedIn format.
Yeah, and that can be challenging. And I always say resumes are very subjective, because what I look for and what I see as a recruiter may be something different than what the recruiter next to me is going to be looking for. And so I always tell people, like, look at your resume, keep it clean, keep it concise, make sure that you are clear in your goals and your directives. But be forthcoming about the things that you've done. Think about, if you've been on a break and you've been doing things, think about what that is and how you can apply that to a position today. If it is, like I said, looking at PTO fundraising, think about how does that translate to project management skills, and make sure you list that in a skills section, or make sure that you put that in your intro or your summary on your LinkedIn page. Make sure that you put that, you have experience in financial planning or project management, even if it's not, you don't think it's going to qualify because it's not a professional thing. That's okay. Like, it's still important to have it in there. That's what's going to make it stand out amongst those others that aren't listing some of those things. And it's challenging to think about how some of that may translate into a corporate environment. But I think being genuine and being realistic and honest about the break, and about maybe any classes or any training that you've done while you're out, that's important to list too. There's so much out there right now. So many companies are offering free online classes. Coursera has some trainings. Catalyst has some really great trainings that are free that you can list as additional, skills and classes and things that you've taken during your break to help, get you to that next level. If recruiters and managers see that you're taking that initiative and you're trying to learn a new skill, that's something that I think is going to make you stand out too. If you see a note on a resume that says, oh, I took these 5 classes over the last 12 months, like, to me, that says this is someone who's trying to maintain their relevancy in a field. They're trying to add new skills. They're trying to develop and grow. That's somebody that I want on my team.
Yeah. And on that note, Laura she just did her own certificate experience in leadership. So she's not just saying it, she's also doing it. Last question before we walk through these slides that I want to get through. And I'm sorry, I was chatting with my 8-year-old on the other side here because everybody's doing school from home today, and I think it's eating my bandwidth. So apologies if everything is feeling a little wonky on the delay. Um, but we're talking about the elevator pitch, which can have a lot of different names essentially. People call it different things. But what's your take on it, and where you think it's best used?
Um, an elevator pitch is tough. It can seem a little bit awkward sometimes, I think, to me. We're not good at talking about ourselves, and this is your opportunity. If you're meeting someone for the first time, this is your chance to tell them who you are and what you have to offer. My elevator pitch is very similar to like my LinkedIn profile summary. It's who I am, what experience I have, what I can bring to the table. I think the biggest thing for me is to be natural and be genuine in what you're saying. You don't want it to sound too stuffy or too like rehearsed or recorded. You want it to sound like you. Like this is who you are. So to be natural and true to yourself, but also understand the audience that you're speaking to. If you're talking to a senior vice president, you might want to be a little more formal than if you're talking to, someone that is a peer, a colleague that you're just kind of, having a casual conversation with. Um, but I think it's important to talk about, your experience, what you've done, what you can bring to the table, and your goals. I think those are the three kind of main components in crafting your elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Great. So I'm going to walk through some slides to help people put together if they haven't put one together, and then we'll loop back to you, and Megan and Tina, who are on with us, to sort of answer some questions that people might have. But thank you for walking us through your experience, and it's just incredibly valuable to hear from people, on the front lines of hiring, and so thank you for that.
absolutely.
Okay, so let's talk about honing your elevator pitch. I want to say that we have a full hour workshop on the site that we can share a link to that walks you through step by step how to put one together with examples. And it's a career coach that we've worked a lot with, who's actually based in London, Shannon Hood. She's fantastic, and it's about an hour long session with exercises. So I encourage you to use that. Today, I want to give you just a high level of the elevator pitch, where it's best used, all the various places that you could use it. Laura just walked through some of them, and why it's important to be prepared. So just think of this as sort of a high level, and then we're going to get to some Q&A while Laura's with us. I also want to say that the specifics of an elevator pitch are going to be very unique to you. So that's why going through a workshop individually on your own, and working through what your previous experiences and what you are hoping to do, is going to be really valuable to you. And since there aren't a ton of holiday parties to go to this year, you've got plenty of time to spend some of the holiday time working on this. Okay, so first of all, let's just chat about what it is. So I look at this as an efficient framing statement about you, what you want to do, that ultimately drives other people to action. In this case, they want to know more. They want to set you up for an interview. They want to have a conversation, or they want to be helpful. A good elevator pitch can also encourage somebody that you're just talking to identify companies that they might have in mind for you to think about that you may not know about, or give you some different ideas. I'm a former reporter, so I think about things in terms of good stories and headlines. And I think about this as a headline that really grabs the reader. I mean, just in a newsroom, as much time is spent on crafting, interviewing people, researching, and putting together a story, there is an extraordinary amount of time that also goes into the headline, because no one will read the story if the headline is bad. And especially in today's 24/7 digital age that we are. So think about it as your headline. It's obviously going to be longer than a news headline, but it's something that is memorable about you and excites someone to action. It's engaging, it's forward looking, it includes specifics about what you want to do next. It's not just, I'm thinking about, I've been on a career break and I'm thinking about dipping my toe back in. It's specific about what you want to do, and it's probably going to change depending on who you're speaking with. And it may change a little. You may have several of these based on um, the different directions that your career might be able to take you. So don't think about it as having to be just one thing. If you've got a couple directions that you're looking into, you would have an elevator pitch for each of those. It needs to be positive and friendly. I have this example, which is kind of a casual example. I'm a former actor with a passion for helping, looking to put my presentation skills to work in sales for a healthy food product company. I mean, that might be something that you say to someone over coffee, just in a casual setting, to start sparking ideas that somebody might be able to help you with. But that's much better than, I'm a former megastar, and my life kind of crumbled a bit, and now I'm interested in sales. It needs to be positive so that the person can respond to you positively as well. And I look at this as an amazing forcing function. It really helps you get clear on what it is that you want to do. And it will help drive all of the efforts then that you take in a job search. Historically, the elevator pitch has been kind of this visual thought that people have. Literally think about stepping onto an elevator, and the exact person that you need to speak to, who can either help you get that job or help you fund your company, is on the elevator, and you have that 30 seconds before you get to the floor that they're getting off on to tell them tell them all about yourself and what it is that you want to do, and get them to do something in response. I literally only know one person. I actually do know one person that this experience has happened to, where she got on the elevator with the CEO of a major company, was ready to go, pitched a greening opportunity for this huge company in a matter of minutes before they reached the top floor that he was going to. He followed up, and she wrote the greening effort for this very large multinational company. So if you think about it visually, those opportunities don't always come along, but there are lots of people in your life who you do talk to, who want to be helpful. And then there are moments when you're going to need to show up, whether it is talking to the vice president in an interview, or whether it is just starting your job search and you happen to be talking to an colleague. So who is it for? I'm getting a little bit into that with what I was just saying. I largely think of the elevator pitch for you first. If you can't say what it is that you want to do, then it's going to be impossible for somebody else to get it as well. But you're going to use this in an email introduction or a cover letter. Laura mentioned using it in your LinkedIn profile summary statement. You can use it at networking events or job fairs, talking to people in an interview setting, and then in these casual opportunities that you can take advantage of, the soccer sidelines, or standing in line at Starbucks. This is a picture of Jacinta Chadwick at Facebook, and this is one of my favorite stories. This is a great example. She is a woman who took 6 years off to be with her kids. She worked for IBM. She was in tech, big tech, and traveled around the country a bit with her family for her husband's job, and focused on parenting, and came back to the States and wanted to relaunch her career, and was having a lot of trouble getting a job. And she finally put her elevator pitch with an ask on Facebook, and her community of people, a network that she knows, rose to the occasion, and she now works at Facebook, which is kind of a full circle story there. But the point is that when you look and you Google elevator pitch, you're going to get a lot of different examples. And the truth of the matter is that you're going to need different ones for different settings. Let me get a little bit ahead of myself here, but you're going to have a formal one potentially that you're going to use in an email or an intro, in a written formal way. This first one is great in a letter. It could also be really good potentially as your LinkedIn profile summary. It has some detail. I'm a former consumer goods marketing manager, and after taking a 4-year hiatus to raise my children, I'm looking to return to work in marketing with a health and wellness related company. I've always been recognized for my focus on quality and productivity. My 2 years of experience with an entrepreneurial healthcare venture have also enabled me to understand and anticipate what consumers want. So that's a lot of words to say out loud, especially if you're looking for a quick response. But it's something that someone can digest in the written form or a more formal form. And so that is like one version. Then think about maybe another version where you're going to ask something, give an at the end, and it's a little bit more pithy. I'm a former consumer goods marketing manager with startup experience looking to work in marketing with a health and wellness related company. I love that technology is bringing health data to life in users' hands. Do you know any of innovative companies doing this in Boston? So you can be really specific. And they're going to morph, and it's going to take more forms. You could probably also get this down into a tweetable form, something even smaller and more compact. And the process that you're going to go through here is the filtering and the editing of putting a lot of words down and then editing it back. So what makes for a good pitch? So you're going to use language that people understand and has a point. And as Laura said, you want to be authentic. It needs to be in your voice. And it needs to be truthful. It needs to be about you, and you want it to be memorable. So the exercises that I recommend in doing this, I actually recommend interviewing yourself first and foremost. Going through the questions that I actually asked Laura at the top of this interview can be a really valuable experience to do for yourself. And if you need somebody to ask them, then find one of your children, find your partner, your spouse, a friend, and like somebody who can ask you the questions. What are you doing now? How did you get here? And what do you want to do next? Interview yourself. Let yourself go back in time and remember the day that you had and what you've accomplished, and then start to write all of that down. So know your strengths, write them down. Strengths, skills, experience, results, passions. What value do you add? Those should encapsulate or to be illuminated based on this list that you're going to create. And everyone who attends these webinars knows that I am a really big fan of that list and keeping it constantly near you so that you can remind yourself of these things. This is critical to your confidence, and confidence is critical when you're looking for a job. What is next? You need to know in your mind what role you're seeking. Then you need to know from there what skills and experiences are required to get that kind of a job. Laura suggested looking at job descriptions. That's an excellent way to start to understand what experience is, and then start cross-referencing that back to the list that you've created. And this is going to help you pull together these summary statements that you're going to put onto paper and then eventually edit into all these various forms that we're talking about. And then know your audience. And I think that, a good idea is to actually, in your mind, envision who those audiences are and write separate ones for each of them. This isn't something that you're going to go to a virtual job fair with and then read. But you're going to, in your mind, have prepared for, oh, if I'm talking to the CEO of a company, I'm going to use this one because I've prepared it in my head. But if I'm talking to somebody in my alumni network who, may just be able to help me with meeting different people, I'm going to use this one. So take the time to do all of this, and we can share these. We can share this slide afterward if anyone needs it. Think about what problems you're solving for a company as well. Starting to it in business terms can be really helpful. Companies want to make money, want to save money. They might want to be able to work more efficiently and save time. They're trying. Am I back? Okay, good. I'm back. Sorry. Refine and tweak depending on the listener. Think of your accomplishments, results, examples, or experiences that you can layer in then when appropriate. So that means if you're giving your pitch to somebody and they're engaging with you, have some side stories or previous examples ready to go that sort of feed into the pitch. So again, if you think about the pitch as your framework, then everything comes after that, including answers to interview questions, and then examples and stories that you might share. Practice out loud. This is critical. You need to find somebody. I suggested here an accountability partner who you could work with together. You could watch the workshop on how to write one of these and work together on it. And then practice in front of the dog, practice in front of your children, get feedback from an old colleague or a partner. Find somebody to talk to and say it out loud so that you're not fumbling over your words when the time comes to actually speak. Say it with energy and a smile. Enthusiasm is contagious. One of the coach that actually runs the elevator pitch workshop that we have has this great suggestion of smiling because it confuses people, but they want to be around you when you're smiling. So, and smiling comes through even over the phone. I know that sounds crazy, but it does. So smile and be enthusiastic so that you can get across you will radiate the energy so the energy can radiate back to you. And then be authentic. This is really important. Put it in words that speaks to you and that will speak to others, and that authenticity will also come through. Okay, so resources, we're going to send around the workshop that you can watch. LinkedIn Learning has a lot of videos on this as well. And then us, if you want us to review any of your profile, your resume, or do some one-on-one coaching with you, obviously you can always reach out. But hey, you've got this. We have a few minutes to get some Q&A questions. I think Tina is going to run the
Yep, I'm here. Yeah.
Questions. Are there any questions in the Q&A?
There are a few questions for Laura that we have in the Q&A. So I will just start off with the first one, and I'm curious to hear your answer with this as well, because I've seen this on LinkedIn. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn has this new banner, the Open to Work banner on LinkedIn? The person writes, I've heard some recruiters may have a bias against candidates with the banner because it makes them appear less employable. So Laura, what are your thoughts on that?
It's interesting because I've seen the banner and I've seen, differing opinions on it. I personally don't have a problem with it. Because to me, if you're looking for an opportunity, you got to let people know. You got to get the word out there, and you've got to talk to people and let your network know, hey, I'm looking for something. I'm open to work. I'm looking for something new. But again, it's just like a resume. Those things are subjective. So I mean, like my opinion is just that. It's my opinion. But I personally don't have a problem with it. I think that if you're out there, you've got to let people know, and you want, the more people that know, the more opportunities that may come to you. If you put something like that on your LinkedIn profile, you very well may get reached out to by people who are like scammers, or people that aren't actually, they're recruiting firms that are looking for things like that. So you want to be cautious with it. But you never know. It might somebody might notice it and say, hey, this person's looking for for an opportunity, and they're they're going to reach out to you. But I would just approach it with healthy dose of caution when you're looking at any of those notes that are coming in from potential recruiters.
And another point is, on LinkedIn, you can, in your settings, you can mark that you're open to work, that only recruiters will see.
Yep.
You don't have to have that open to work banner. So if you're not comfortable having that open to work banner, you can go in your settings and just click that you're open to work. And then people like Laura at Dell could possibly find you that way, instead of having the banner on
Exactly. And that's how you populate in our searches too. If you have that turned on in your privacy settings, that's how you're going to come up when I'm out there and I'm doing a search for, these 3 skill sets or locations or things like that. If you've got that on, you'll populate into that search. So that's a great point. It's really important too.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. And there's a couple more questions. This one, it's great to encourage us to gain qualifications on Coursera, for example. How do you write? Like, I'd be favorably impressed with somebody who's done 5 courses with Coursera in the past, but how do you put that on your resume? Is that kind of where you were talking about your transferable skills that you put that in your skills section? Like if you've taken a course in that?
Yeah, I would list that the same as I would list any sort of like certifications or professional associations. If you have a section on your resume that's certifications and trainings or something like that, you would just list the title of the course and like the date you took it. I think that's okay. If you like, I have a professional human resources certification. And so I have a section on my resume that, has that listed, and any of the classes like the Disney leadership course that Stacy mentioned, that would be listed there as well. So I think you just add a little, section at the bottom, and that's where you can plug in anything like that. It's really more for people to see that you're taking that initiative and learning new skills and trying to keep your skills up to date. I think that's the biggest piece of it.
Yeah. I would agree. And the next question is talking about kind of with pro bono work and taking classes. And I always tell people with the pro bono work is those are skills that you have, whether you were paid or not paid, and to put those on your resume. Would you agree with that, Laura?
100%. Yes. Just because you did, like you said, just because you did it for free doesn't mean it's not a skill or something that, that you do well. Things like project management, those are skills that are highly sought after. And if you can manage a lot of moving parts and things like that, I mean, that's something that people are looking for. So you want to make sure that it's on there somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another question. Do you look at cover letters? In your mind, what are the aspects of the most successful cover letters? When we talk to recruiters, some read them, some don't. It seems like it's a very open-ended question.
It is. And that's another one of those, controversial things. Like, do you add one? Do you not add one? For me personally, I'm going to go for the resume, and I'm going to look, because as a recruiter, when you're looking at a position and you've got several hundred applications for one requisition, you are going to be looking to go through those as quickly as possible. And as a recruiter, you can identify pretty quickly whether or not someone is going to fit the qualifications. So I personally am going to go through the resume first. If it's someone I'm interested in based on the resume, I may go back and read the cover letter. But that's another one of those personal preference kind of things. It can't hurt at this point. Like, yeah, yeah.
With the big companies, it's generally optional. Smaller companies, small businesses often will ask for them. And in that case, you if it's a small business and they ask for it, then you're going to want to use the
definitely
cover letter, because it's a smaller team and they're going to look at it. But the big companies, in general, yeah, I hear the same thing, Laura, that if it's there, it's there. But for the most part, they're just looking at your resume.
And if you're on the fence, put one on there. You never know, the recruiter that may be looking at it really wants to see it. It's kind of the same thing. Like, you may have multiple versions depending on the types of positions that you're applying to. They may be more focused on, some of your marketing skills, or, what you're looking for, or a position that you're trying to get into. So think about that when you're adding them, but it can't hurt. So
Mhm. I think that's all for the questions, but I have one additional question that I'd like to ask Laura while she's here. If I was somebody who was interested in applying for a position, let's say at Dell, and I didn't know anybody at the company, what do you think would be the best process? Would it be best to apply on LinkedIn, through the job on the job site? Should I try to reach out to somebody for an informational interview? How would you recommend somebody who is interested in the company but possibly doesn't know anybody that currently works there?
Yeah. And that happens a lot. I would definitely, first and foremost, anytime you reach out to a recruiter, they're going to ask you if you've applied on our website yet. That's good. That's just kind of their first go-to thing, making sure that you've got your application in. Just from a legal standpoint, we need to make sure that you're applying for the position and they're reviewing applications through the system, so that it's consistent process across the board. Apply for the position and then reach out to someone on LinkedIn. You never know if that kind of little reach out or touch point is going to make a difference. You may, catch someone who's looking for certain skills. Our recruiters are on LinkedIn posting all the time. They encourage people to reach out to them. If we attend any events or career fairs, they want people to connect with them. They ask them to, hey, reach out to me if you have questions. So yeah, I would definitely apply for the positions and then also do that reach out, introduce yourself, use your elevator pitch that you've crafted, and then see where it gets you.
Yeah, that's a great question to end on there, Tina. Thank you. Laura, Carver, thank you so much for being here today. This was just invaluable to everybody, and we appreciate you giving us the whole hour and taking the time. And
Thank you for having me.
Excited to connect with you. Absolutely. Tina and Megan, thank you so much for being here to help with the good questions that we always get. And Jordan, thank you as always for monitoring our chat and Q&A. I hope everyone has a great week. Please be in touch with any questions, and we'll see you next week with Jennifer Gefsky on returning to work and what that path can look like. Take care, everyone.